What is up, everyone? Pags here at MEI Studio. This week we're going to look at a mic company that we haven't yet touched upon. A company that beat the odds and went from the brink of bankruptcy to one of the biggest and most popular mic manufacturers in the world. This week, it's all about Rode. To get to what we currently know as Rode, we need to go back to the 1960s in Europe with a couple named Henry and Astrid Friedman. Originally from London, UK, the couple moved to Stockholm, Sweden, where Henry was employed at a telecom company as an engineer. As a side gig, Henry would moonlight as a tech for the German company Dynacord, modifying and repairing their products. This after-hours work would blossom a relationship between Henry and Dynacord, who offered him the opportunity to be their sole distributor for Australia. Henry and Astrid packed up and, along with their son Peter, moved to Ashfield near Sydney in 1966. In 1967, the couple started their company, Friedman Electronics. They became one of the first companies there to design, manufacture, distribute, service, and install audio equipment. From loudspeakers to microphones to amplifiers, Friedman Electronics was your one-stop shop for pro audio. Henry would unfortunately pass in 1987 and would leave the company in the hands of his son Peter, who at the time had little business experience. Peter invested heavily in the company, which took a financial toll in the rough economy of the late 1980s. On the verge of bankruptcy, Peter decided to roll the dice one last time and imported a few large diaphragm condenser mics he saw at a trade show in China 10 years prior. The mics were modded and repackaged and were an instant success. It was said that sales took off like a rat up a drain pipe, and that led to them naming the microphone the Rode NT1. Rode NT1. Get it? They later added the slash line through the O to pay homage to their Stockholm heritage and give the name a more European vibe. So, does this mean that the company's name should be pronounced Rude? Anyway, the late 90s and early 2000s saw the company start to produce a number of large diaphragm condenser microphones with a quality to price point not really seen before. Mics like the NT1, the NT2, the Classic, and today's subject, the NTK, were all instant hits. Seeing the writing on the wall with things gaining traction in all things video, Rode released their first camera compact shotgun microphone, which dominated the video scene in the late 2000s. From here, the company went about business in a spirit of DIY, which I absolutely love. Instead of importing parts from overseas, Rode would buy the machines to make the parts in-house. They would build machines to run those machines in an automation revolution the likes few other companies, especially these days, would be able to achieve. From capsules to bodies to transformers, Rode did it all themselves at home in Australia. I was a very early adopter of Rode mics. I had one of the original ceramic body NT1 mics with no logo. That was stolen from me before COVID lockdown when I lent it to another studio around here. But anyway, I also purchased an NTK early on, whose handwritten serial number is very low in the 4 digits. Long after I got the NTK, which was my studio's workhorse for vocals for many years, the mic developed an odd issue. I'm not sure if it was the tube, the capsule, or a bad cap, or some combination of things, but the mic was way out of warranty. I contacted Rode to find out how I could get the mic serviced at the time, and, I wasn't really as brave then as I am now with tearing things open and tinkering with the guts. They gave me an address to ship the mic to in the States and told me not to worry about the service fee. This one was on them. Like, what? Seriously? The mic was out of warranty for probably years at that point. This made such an impact on me that when I met up with Peter Friedman at an AES show a couple of years later, I relayed the story to him, and I could tell that he was really proud of the job that his team was doing. He gave an extremely firm handshake and thanked me for being a customer and handed me some swag that they had at the booth at the time, which I still have hanging up in my shop to this day. That's how you do customer service. Speaking of which, update, Austrian Audio finally responded to my inquiry that I sent to them back in December, and essentially gave me a BS nothing answer to the question that I asked and flat out ignored the request to talk about their designs. Great job! Maybe that's why AKG needed to get bailed out. In years past, Rode has been 5 steps ahead of the competition when it comes to innovation in new markets. Rode has by far surpassed everyone else in the caster market and has dominated to such a degree that, in all seriousness, no one is ever going to catch up to them, especially if Rode continues to bring their A game to market, which the last bunch of things that they've released, absolutely top notch. The company today is simply a powerhouse in the industry and has been a true fairy tale story in modern times. So congrats to the Friedmans and their team, and they absolutely deserve it. Now to today's mic, the NTK. In doing my research for this mic, for some reason there's some ambiguity on the release date that pops up. I'm positive I bought mine in either late 2001 or early 2002, and there are articles from Sound on Sound and others from 2001 for it as well. Regardless, the mic was available in the early 2000s. The mic retailed for between $500 and $600 upon release and had an MSRP of around $1,000 USD. At the time, the mic came in a box with a rigid stand adapter. I can't really call it a clip because it wasn't clipped on, it needed to be kind of screwed on. Anyway, the shock mount was around $50 extra, which, if you saw my last short, is the same price as a clip for an RE20. But this thing is a heavy-duty shock mount. Unfortunately, it doesn't fit too many other mics, but, you know, it's always nice when you can repurpose them. But the combo got you a twin triode 6922 tube mic with a 1-inch gold sputtered proprietary capsule, a ridiculously long 7-pin cable, and power supply. I also believe the mic came with a little carrying bag, like one of those Shure leather pouch bag kind of things. The big carry case that it comes with now came on a little bit later, you know, the one that looks like it could survive an airline crash. The mic was a unique design for a tube mic in that there was no transformer output stage. Instead, Rode decided to go with a transistor output stage, likely to keep distortion at a minimum. The mic is very quiet. As long as the tube inside is working properly, we're talking about 12 dB of noise A-weighted. The frequency response is pretty flat, all the way up to about 2K, and has a little bump up around 5K, which works great for acoustic guitar, which we're going to see a little bit later. There's also another bump around 12K, which gives this mic a nice sense of air. But it's nothing like some of the MXL mics that we've seen. The bump is rounded, maybe 6 dB increase, which tapers back down when it gets up to about the 20K range. For polar patterns, unfortunately we're stuck with the single cardioid pattern, which for most applications will suffice, but I'm sure that helped keep the cost down of the mic. At the time of its release, there were a lot of haters for this mic. While many engineers and reviewers touted the mic for its smooth, detailed, and quiet operation, the haters online dug into it as sounding too bright or brittle or hyped. I never really understood why the mic got the negativity it got. To me, the mic sounded nothing short of pro-level silkiness. One reviewer at ProRec.com said something to the effect of, "Hell, I sound like Barry White through this microphone." Perhaps Rode, the new kid on the block, blackened an eye or two by putting out something really good where others were failing to innovate while dismissing the influx of cheap condenser mics coming out of Asia. Back when I got the mic, I only had a couple of outboard pre's, one of which was a 2-channel PreSonus MP20, which to my ears at the time sounded kind of good with the NTK. I got another pre shortly after that, when tied to this mic, would produce a pretty nice big round sound that no one could really call hyped, bright, or brittle, the Joe Meek VC-1. And that's going to lead us into the tangent of the day here on mic pre's. If there were a single perfect mic pre out there that just worked great on everything, recording would be a lot easier. Some arguments could be made that the clean pre's that are found on most prosumer grade gear these days are good enough for most work, and honestly, I probably couldn't argue against that point all too much. In fact, it's going to be the topic of an upcoming video, so be sure to check that out when it drops. There are plenty of flavors out there on the market today. Some are neutral and don't really add much to the sound. You can find these on just about every red-colored popular interface out there today. There are other pre's which have a sound all their own, from bright and forward to dark and deep. Some forward pre's that come to mind are the APIs, the 312 and the 512s. Neves tend to sound a bit on the heavier side with a little more weight in the bottom end, but still pretty present. King Germanium Pre's tend to be on the darker side, whereas AEA mic pre's tend to be more neutral but very low noise and high available gain. This is really a case of knowing what you have and how it sounds and what you can expect when using certain mics. If you have a bright mic, Perhaps a darker pre can get you a more balanced tone. If you have a darker mic, maybe a brighter pre will help out. If you want a really dark tone, get a dark mic and a dark pre, and bam, you're underwater. And that's about the end of this little tangent here. Up until now, we've been listening to the NTK through the Joe Meek VC-1. Let's see what it sounds like through a more neutral pre. This is the Rode NTK through a Universal Audio Volt interface. Let's move on to something more expensive. And now this is the Rode NTK through a Neve 1073 with no EQ. Let's move on to something a little bit more forward. This is the Rode NTK through an API 312. Let's see what a tube mic through some more tubes sounds like. This is the Rode NTK through a Universal Audio 610 tube mic preamp with no EQ. Let's do a couple more. This is the Rode NTK through a boutique Hairball Audio Lola mic preamp. Let's do one more. This is the Rode NTK through a boutique APP Studios MA1 Germanium mic preamp. So there's some tonal variations there for sure. On spoken word, the differences tend to be a little bit more subtle. Out of those 7, did any of them stand out as being offensive, too bright, brittle, or hyped? I have my favorites, and I'll be happy to share them in the comments if anybody wants to discuss it. But none of these struck me as being bad by any stretch, so I'm going to go with the idea that this mic isn't the bright, brittle hype thing that these people think they thought they heard. Let's take a listen to the NTK on a few things in the studio, comparing it to some of my other common choices, just as a comparison, not really shooting it out. But I'll be changing up the pre to fit the situation as I would for a normal session. Let's check it out on drum room, female vocals, male vocals, piano, and acoustic guitar. Let's get to it.
Grown man with this money, so I can't be immature. Got a plan for this money, trying to end up on the Forbes. So it's in and out, 1-2 step in the lane and fillet. I'm a score, getting paid, never getting bored. Collecting these commas really been a cure. Grown man with this money, so I can't be immature. Got a plan for this money, trying to end up on the Forbes. So it's in and out, 1-2 step in the lane and fillet. I'm a score, getting paid, never getting bored. Collecting these commas really been a cure.
I am changing. I'll be better than I am, but I'm trying to find a way to understand. But I need you, I need you, I need a hand. I'm changing, seeing everything so clear. I am changing. I'm gonna start right now, right here, and I'm hoping to work it out, and I know that I can. But I need you, I need a hand. All my life, I've been a fool who said I could do it.
All right, thanks to everyone that came out to help me test this mic out this week. I really appreciate it, guys. The mic is still in production today and still has a decent price tag associated with it. I think it's still around $500, maybe a little bit more. Considering the build quality of this mic, the machining is closer to what you would expect on something Neumann would make. The metalwork, capsule mount, and the general over-engineering is something you don't normally see on a mic under 4 figures. I certainly felt the mic did well with transients and finer details. As a vocal mic, I can only say that I stopped using it after I got my U47 clone. The mic had been sitting at my other studio as the main vocal mic over there. We moved most of the gear here, and I had to leave some decent stuff over at the other place. So, in the examples, the mic had a mid-presence that I really wasn't getting at in most of the other mics, except for maybe that C12 Clone. The response on that mic and the NTK is actually kind of similar. I want to hear what you thought about the mic. Did you feel that it was bright, brittle, or too hyped? Do you think it held its own against some mics that we put up that were 2, 3, 4 times the price? Let me know what you thought down in the comments. I'd love to discuss it with you. As always, if you've gotten anything from today's video, please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're interested in studio mics and other things audio related, hit that notify button so you'll be notified when we put up a new video. If you have any suggestions for a video or any questions regarding this one or anything else really, please use the comment section or send us a message through our website. I'd love to hear from you. Well, that's it for this time. This is Pags, signing off.